Everybody was coming to the scene of the shooting, which is normal. People are just that way. But as I was searching the south curb of Elm Street, I heard a shrill whistle. And I looked up. It just drew my attention. It was coming from across the street. And there was a light green Rambler station wagon driving real slow west on Elm Street. And the driver was leaning over to his right, looking up at a man running down the grass. So I immediately tried to cross the street to take these two people into custody for questioning. Just, everybody else was coming to the scene. These were the only two people leaving. I mean, this was suspicious in my mind, at the time. So I wanted to talk to them. But I couldn't get across the street because the city officer who was stationed at Houston and Elm had left his post, and the traffic, was so heavy I just couldn't get across the street to him. But I did get a good look at the man coming down the grassy knoll. And he got in the station wagon, and they drove west on Elm Street.
The man that Roger Craig saw running down the grassy knoll and riding off in a light-colored station wagon was Lee Harvey Oswald.
I was thinking about this man getting away from me.
This was the man that got into the Green Rambler.
The Green Rambler. And I called Captain Fritz at his office and gave him a description of the man I saw get into the Rambler. And he told me, and I quote him, "It sounds like the suspect we have in custody. Come on up and take a look at him." So I went out and got in my unmarked car and drove to the City Hall, went directly to Captain Fritz's office. And we went into Captain Fritz's inner office, and the man was sitting in a chair behind a desk. And there was another gentleman. I assumed he was one of Fritz's people because he had the white cowboy hat on, which was the trademark at that time of the Dallas Homicide Bureau. And Fritz turned to me and said, "Is this the man you saw?" And I said, "Yes." And it was. It was.
Now, folks, who are you going to listen to? A man, Roger Craig, who had never seen or heard of Lee Harvey Oswald in his entire life at the time he said he saw him coming down the incline, getting into a car, leaving the area, leaving Dealey Plaza? Or are you going to listen to the woman who was on the bus that Oswald was known to have gotten on for two reasons? Number one, he had the bus transfer of that particular bus and driver in his pocket when he was arrested with the date November 22nd, 1963, and that woman, Mrs. Bledsoe, actually rented a room to Oswald for 1 week in her rooming house. Who are you going to listen to? A man who had never seen him before, or a woman who had him in her house for 1 week? I find it amazing that the Mark Lanes of this world can ignore evidence like this and make films like this. And even worse, that people actually listen to him. I think, folks, if I had my life to live over, I would have gone to college and studied psychology, because the human animal, people are just so damn interesting. One of the things I forgot to include initially was this. If you believe that Mr. Oswald was picked up by a car in Dealey Plaza and whisked away, why then did they drop him off at his rooming house and leave him on his own? Even conspiracy theorists never dispute the fact that Oswald was seen about 1 o'clock going into his rooming house and then leaving, and then seen at the corner of 10th and Patton, then seen running away from the corner of 10th and Patton, and then apprehended a little while later in the Texas Theater in the Oak Cliff area. doesn't seem to make too much sense. If there was some conspiracy, whether Oswald was a shooter or just a patsy or just somebody who knew something, if they picked him up and drove him out of Dealey Plaza, why did they drop him off at his rooming house and leave him on his own? To fend for himself, to possibly be captured and possibly tell the authorities about, for instance, the people who picked him up. Doesn't seem to make too much sense, but this is the kind of thing that comes out of the conspiratorial mind. Have a nice day.